impeachments to inaugurations, if it's a political story, we are on the scene. The race for the White House is heating up.
Kamala, you're fired!
I say, bring it on.
If it's breaking news, we're live with the latest coverage. From the White House, the State Department, and Capitol Hill, we know the issues, but above all, we know the players to bring you the latest in-depth analysis on all the key stories that we're covering. I'm Eric Ham. Join me from Washington here on Firstpost America. Hello and welcome to Firstpost America. I'm Eric Ham, coming to you live from the nation's capital in Washington, D.C. And over the next few minutes, we'll take you from the United States and around the world, covering all the top stories of the day. But before that, let's take a look at the latest headlines. U.S. Vice President Kamala Harris picks Minnesota Governor Tim Walz as her running mate for the 2024 presidential election. The decision comes hours after Harris made history by securing the Democratic presidential nomination. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi chairs an all-party meeting to discuss the crisis in neighboring Bangladesh. This as New Delhi raises concerns about security in the region after the ouster of Bangladeshi Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina. The United Kingdom deploys 6,000 special police officers to control riots. England is also shuffling around prisoners in order to free up nearly 500 prisons after Prime Minister Keir Starmer orders a crackdown on right-wing thugs. Japan marks the 79th anniversary of the detonation of the atomic bomb on Hiroshima. The Prime Minister Fumio Kishida calls for a world free from nuclear weapons amid nuclear threats from North Korea and Russia. The United States Supreme Court refuses to halt Donald Trump's upcoming sentencing on his conviction in the hush money case. The court also rejects a bid to lift a gag order on the former president. And a United States court finds that Google spent billions of dollars to create an illegal monopoly to become the world's largest search engine. The landmark decision finds that Google's parent company Alphabet broke antitrust laws. We begin in the Middle East, where Russia is reportedly delivering advanced radar and air defense equipment to Iran amid fears of a full-blown war with Israel. The report comes as Russia's security chief Sergei Shoigu met Iran's new president Masoud Pezeshkian in Tehran on Monday. Iran is preparing to retaliate against Israel for the killing of Hamas political chief Ismail Haniyeh on its soil last week. While Israel has refused to comment on the incident, Iran's supreme leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei has ordered a direct attack on Israel. Meanwhile, the Kremlin has condemned the killing of Haniyeh and called on all parties to prevent a wider regional war. Now on Monday, Pezeshkian told Shoigu that Russia is among the nations that have stood by Iran during difficult times. The Iranian president further said that Haniyeh's killing in Tehran and Israel's criminal actions in Gaza were examples of the violation of international laws and regulations. Meanwhile, Shoigu said Russia is ready for full cooperation with Iran on regional issues. The Russian official also met with the commander of Iran's armed forces, who said the relationship between the two countries was deep, long-term, and strategic. Now, reports say a large number of Russian Jews live in Israel, and both nations have economic and cultural ties. It's also important to note that Moscow relies heavily on Iranian drones for its war in Ukraine. Iran has also provided military drones to Russia since its invasion of Ukraine in 2022, and the two countries recently finalized a deal to expand their intelligence and military cooperation. And now, with Russia's involvement, this could certainly complicate efforts at diffusing tensions and staving off a wider war in the region. Here in the United States, Usha Vance has defended her husband, Republican vice presidential nominee JD Vance, over his controversial remarks about childless cat ladies. The comments were made during a 2021 interview when Vance was a candidate for the U.S. Senate in Ohio. JD Vance said that the U.S. was being run by, quote, a bunch of childless cat ladies who are miserable at their own lives and the choices that they have made, and so they want to make the rest of the country miserable too, end quote. But he didn't stop there. He also dropped names of several high-profile Democrats, including Vice President Kamala Harris and Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, and questioned why they did not have children of their own. Now, defending these remarks in her first solo interview on Monday, Usha Vance argued that her husband made a quip that was being taken too seriously. She added that Vance's comments were about the challenges faced by parents and the role government plays in the lives of these parents. Vance also said she understands that a lot of people choose not to have kids, and many of their reasons are very good. Now, addressing the criticism that her husband's comments were insulting to those who have fertility problems, she said JD Vance would never say something to hurt someone who was trying to have a family or struggling to have one. Her defense of Vance draws eerie parallels to Melania Trump, who called the former president's derogatory comments on women as boys' locker room talk. Now, Vance's contentious remarks have garnered greater scrutiny since Donald Trump named him as his running mate last month. Several celebrities, including Hollywood actress Jennifer Aniston, have accused Vance of belittling women who can't have children. And not just celebrities, but the general public has also been offended by the Republicans' past comments.
I just feel like anyone that's running for like an official role shouldn't have to be judgment to certain people in their lives, and should be like supporting people generally and making them feel protected.
I think it's sad that he would make such a statement. I think that any time that you're spitting out vitriol and meanness, it's not helpful. And I believe that in my job as a counselor and in my being an aunt to nephews and nieces, that I've touched the lives of lots of kids, even though I chose not to have any of my own. And having cats is lovely, whether you have children or not.
Now, JD Vance has defended himself, saying people were focusing on sarcasm and that his comments were meant to argue that Democrats promote anti-family values. Vance's comments have only led to greater recriminations for the vice presidential nominee, as his voting record and other remarks on women have come into greater focus. Reproductive rights will play heavily in this election, and so far, polls are showing Vance is not helping his party's ticket on the issue. Transitioning from casual remarks to monumental legacies, former House Speaker Nancy Pelosi has suggested that President Joe Biden should have a spot on Mount Rushmore. Rich. Pelosi said the 81-year-old is a Mount Rushmore kind of president. Surprising, considering reports indicate her fingertips were all over the push to oust Biden from the race for the White House. Now, Mount Rushmore is an iconic monument which features 4 former presidents, including George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, Abraham Lincoln, and Theodore Roosevelt. Now, does Biden make the cut? Here's our report weighing in on the matter.
Nancy Pelosi has sparked a heated discussion with her suggestion to add current US President Joe Biden to Mount Rushmore. The iconic monument, which features the faces of former American presidents, including George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, Abraham Lincoln, and Theodore Roosevelt, might soon see a new addition, at least according to Pelosi. During an appearance on a Sunday morning show, the former House Speaker praised the 81-year-old Biden as a consequential president of the United States. She called him a Mount Rushmore kind of president. The 84-year-old former House Speaker also expressed her admiration without proposing the removal of any existing figures. Here's what she said. "You have Teddy Roosevelt up there, and he's wonderful. I don't say take him down, but you can add Biden." Last month, in a surprising move, Joe Biden exited the US presidential race amid speculation that Pelosi had advised him to step aside to avoid harming the Democrats' chances in the upcoming elections. But despite these reports, Pelosi stood by Biden.
"I have the high privilege and distinct honor of presenting to you the President of the United States.
Politics is politics. People have their interest in terms of their own region and the rest. And so we are the Democratic Party, a party that is, shall we say, not lockstep. But this president has been a great president.
However, Pelosi's stance on Biden's candidacy has repeatedly evolved. Initially supportive, her opinions changed following his debate performance against Donald Trump. She later urged Biden to reconsider running for re-election, even as he reaffirmed his commitment to the race. On another morning show, Pelosi reiterated that the decision rested solely with Biden, acknowledging his firm commitment in a letter to Democratic members in early July.
It's up to the president to decide if he is going to run. We're all encouraging him to make that decision because time is running short. I think overwhelming support of the caucus. It's not for me to say. I'm not the head of the caucus anymore. But he's beloved. He is respected, and people want him to make that decision.
Various reports speculated that Biden was displeased with Pelosi over her perceived role in undermining his re-election efforts. In response, Pelosi expressed her deep affection for Biden, stating, "He knows that I love him very much." She also clarified her discretion, asserting, "I have never shared any conversations with the President of the United States publicly." So as the political landscape shifts in the United States, Pelosi's controversial Mount Rushmore suggestion has sparked debate, with some drawing parallels to former President Donald Trump's previous suggestion that he too deserves to be on the monument.
In South America, Venezuelan opposition leaders are now calling on the country's armed forces to abandon their support for Nicolas Maduro, who continues to face accusations of election fraud. Opposition leaders Edmundo Gonzalez and Corina Machado have urged military and police personnel to stand with the people rather than enforcing the regime's repressive tactics. Their call to abandon the newly re-elected president comes after the opposition claims that the election was marred by irregularities. According to their data, Gonzalez defeated Maduro by a significant margin, with records from over 80% of polling stations indicating Maduro's defeat. And even though Maduro is yet to provide concrete voting tallies, in the latest development, Venezuela's National Electoral Council has provided the Supreme Court with detailed records of the elections. Meanwhile, the Venezuelan government continues to crack down on protesters with severe measures, arresting around 2,000 opponents and reportedly causing the death of at least 20 during post-election protests. Relatives of people detained in Venezuela's post-election unrest demanded justice for their loved ones outside detention centers in Caracas.
Nobody wants their children to go through what those people are going through in there. I can't tell you that something bad is going on. My daughter tells me that she is fine, thank God, and that she is surrounded by good people in there. But being locked up is like when an animal is locked up without freedom, without being able to see anything. And in her letter, she says to me, "Look where I am for getting out to do something."
Now, international pressure continues to mount on the Venezuelan government to release a full breakdown of the election results. Brazilian President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva and Chilean President Gabriel Boric have both voiced concerns. Meanwhile, allies of Maduro, including Russia, China, Cuba, and Iran, have endorsed his victory and condemned foreign interference. Now, in response to mounting domestic and international pressure, Venezuela's top Attorney General has launched a criminal investigation against opposition leaders Gonzalez and Machado and accused them of inciting disobedience and spreading false information. Meanwhile, Maduro urged citizens to leave social media messaging platform WhatsApp, saying the app was being used to threaten the families of soldiers and police officers.
I'm going to break relations with WhatsApp because WhatsApp is being used to threaten Venezuela. Therefore, I'm going to delete WhatsApp from my phone forever. Little by little, I'll migrate my contacts to Telegram and WeChat. Do you understand me? We must do it. Say no to WhatsApp. WhatsApp out of Venezuela. Because there, criminals threaten the youth, popular leaders.
With Gonzalez and Machado in hiding and the opposition's calls for military defection intensifying, the question looms large. Will the armed forces remain loyal to Maduro, or will they heed the call and side with the people? And finally, while the holiday is a welcome break for some, for so many others, it's a bleak reminder of their desperate financial situation. New data reveals that at least 40 million workers in Europe are too poor to afford a holiday, either in their own country or abroad. So what are the implications of this trend of all work and no play? Our final report finds out.
In Europe, the dream of a holiday has turned into a distant hope for millions. Once seen as a vital antidote to stress, a week away has become a luxury that many cannot afford. This stark reality exposes a deep socio-economic divide. Holiday poverty, or the inability to afford a week's break, now affects nearly 40 million people. That's 15% of Europe's working population. France saw the most significant rise in holiday poverty, with around 1 million workers unable to go on vacation. That's almost 12% of the country's workforce. Ireland experienced the highest percentage point increase at 3.8%, taking their tally to almost 15%. 13 countries reported worsening conditions, with Romania, Cyprus and Greece being the hardest hit, with almost 25% of their workers unable to afford vacations. This crisis is not new. Since the 2008 financial crisis, the number of Europeans unable to afford a week's holiday has surged. At its peak, about 39% of Europeans faced this struggle. The ETUC study examined income and living standards for EU residents aged 18 to 64 during 2021 and 2022, a period marked by high inflation and rising global living costs. Workers found it harder to save for holidays as housing, food and transportation prices soared. Low-wage workers in particular struggled to cover basic necessities, leaving little room for leisure travel. Workplace stress is prevalent in Europe, with about half of European workers citing it as a common issue. The ability of working-class families to afford holidays was one of Europe's great social advances in the 20th century, contributing to health, well-being and a sense of progress and optimism. Yet the figures tell a story of regression driven by increased economic inequality. While wealthy CEOs relax in luxury resorts, a single week's holiday remains out of reach for 40 million hardworking people struggling to make ends meet. The ETUC has urged member states to implement the minimum wage directive by November 2024 to address this widening gap. According to a new Eurofound report, concrete actions to promote collective bargaining remain limited. Nonetheless, the need for equitable policies is clear. A holiday is more than just a break. It's a crucial element of a balanced life, contributing to overall well-being and social cohesion. As Europe grapples with economic challenges, ensuring that all workers can afford a holiday is a step towards a more inclusive and fair society.
That's our show for today. We certainly thank you so much for tuning in. We hope to see you right back here again tomorrow. Thanks again for watching.